Liv Morgan reveals a possible name for she and Rhea's new tag team. Miz shows his conflicting feelings about Cleveland. And is Damian really all in on his heel persona? I'm Casualeann. Come with me. Jackie Redmond and Matt Camp start the evening off with some headlines. They begin with the biggest line of the night. Kevin Owens has the realization of realizations. He has invited, in super disrespectful fashion, the Texas Rattlesnake, Stone Cold Steve Austin, to appear on a special WrestleMania-sized iteration of the Kevin Owens show. They already say he wants to deliver the most famous stunner in Dallas, but following that, they announced the new Raw Tag Team Champions, RK Bro. Miz and Logan Paul return home, and they super played up King being from Cleveland. But he's not. He just spent part of his childhood there as well, which was kind of weird. They're trying to make Logan Paul less of a heel than The Miz, but Cleveland was not having it. They booed Logan Paul hardcore every time he spoke. The crowd cheered Miz until he openly antagonized Cleveland, saying it wasn't a WrestleMania town. And Redmond points out that the facts he stated about Cleveland weren't wrong. Dang, Jackie. Cold-blooded. Miz and Sarah Schreiber are backstage. He talks about Cleveland giving him respect that he'd been waiting his whole life for, and he muses about the air smelling sweet there, the food tasting better, but that when people are successful, they leave. And that's precisely what he did. He notes he has the respect now, so he's gonna go enjoy himself, go to a nice restaurant. He suspects that for WrestleMania, people will see things from Logan Paul that they don't expect. The things he's been showing Logan Paul in Miz's mind usually takes years for folks to catch on to. The ball gets them right away. Guest host Paul Rosenberg echoes the Miz's thoughts about Cleveland being a dump, while Matt Camp champions them. Cleveland does indeed have the makings of a WrestleMania city. This was cool. Miz gives us the sense that he's got complex feelings about his hometown, which many of us may have, depending on where we're from. My hometown's awesome, of course. I don't know about yours. He's still rooted in that bad guy sentiment. He's not even going to give his own folks the satisfaction of liking him. After some ads, they replay the triumphant return of the Raw Tag Team Championships to the ultimate odd couple, RK Bro. Randy Orton, in his victory remarks, calls Riddle a friend, which says to me that Riddle for sure is going to turn on the Viper. I could be wrong, but it wouldn't make any sense at all for Randy Orton to turn on the original Bro now. There is exactly zero to be gained from it. But in the WWE, there is no bottom for nonsensical happenings. We get some coverage of the women's tag team match, Carmella and Queen Zelina versus Liv Morgan and Rhea Ripley. Because the latter defeated the Raw Women's Champions, they will now compete for the championship in a triple threat match against the champions and Naomi and Sasha Banks. Liv Morgan gushes that they live for brutality. Is there a tag team name buried in there somewhere? Sarah asks about a game plan, and Rhea quips that they don't just give their plans away. Hate to be an I told you so, so I won't be. Just click the video for a similar sentiment. They go off with Liv elated, talking about coordinating gear and colors. Although it's strange to see Rhea Ripley in another tag team just this quickly, I do kind of like her and Liv Morgan's dynamic. They have a natural chemistry, and we'll see how that continues to evolve in the ring. After more ads, we get a Blacklight Edge promo. He gives AJ Styles credit for him discovering a new Edge, one he has fallen in love with. He says he's standing on the mountain of omnipotence, and the view is phenomenal. Absolutely fantastic, emotionally evocative, chilling sort of line. The kayfabe report is a severe neck contusion suffered by AJ Styles. This will serve as the Phenomenal One's motivation to tear the rated R superstar apart, which I cannot wait to see. The character shift in Edge is a poignant part of that, I think. The lighting even made his eyes look blacked out like the people under Marianne's influence in True Blood, those possessed people. It looked kind of like that. Speaking of turning towards the dark, Damien Priest now exercises some shades of the bad guy. He jumps into Finn Balor's match with Austin Theory and attacks the US champion, delivering a thundering razor's edge. To one Kevin Patrick, Damien Priest recalls his successes despite fans' lack of support. He rages that when their favorites were there, when he was their guardian angel, the people cheered him. But now, we'll get the real Damien Priest. He's gonna have fun destroying all of our favorites, something that will live forever. I didn't buy the heel turn at first, but at least Damian is dripping in conviction. The man is committed to this. With that touch of the live forever mantra, it's as though there's no complete 180 in his character. This is another portion of what was already within him, and that feels more real than some completely new person that bears zero resemblance to the character that the audience has grown to love. Peter Rosenberg, turning back to Edge, says that this psychotic side is who he is. This is where he's comfortable. And Redman asks about the legacy of AJ Styles with a win over Edge. Now, Peter talks about Styles making it to WWE at an advanced age. This kind of makes me think of Diamond Dallas Page in that regard, but a victory here will be the ultimate notch in his belt. Redman cites the frustration Damien Priest has with the fans. Rosenberg offers that Priest, coming from the Bronx, needs only to tap into who he is. There are people like Damien Priest just as dangerous as he is in the Bronx right now. I didn't really understand the sharp turn from Damien Priest back to Edge, just for them to circle back around to Priest, but this is one of those pebbles in the road. This is one of those sticky little briars in their new structure, and by new I mean about 5 months old. But the show ends with a plea to Stone Cold from both Redman and Camp. They beg the Texas Rattlesnake to accept KO's invitation for a WrestleMania edition of the Kevin Owens show. Of course, the Texas Rattlesnake has since accepted, and depending on what gets discussed in this week's episode of Talking Smack, we might get into that in the next review. But my rating is 4 out of 5. This was a solid episode, anchored by the bad Archer of Infamy, the infamous Dark Angel, the split-level Live Forever Destroyer of Dreams. They'll work on a nickname for sure. Priest, despite some formulaic content that's reminiscent of Randy Orton's Legend Killer gimmick, through sheer force of will, draws out the interesting aspect of the evolution of his character. Liv Morgan and Rhea Ripley's chemistry as a duo actually managed to offset my slight disappointment at 2 great singles competitors being kept from the title picture. I'm glad they're gonna have something to do, and who knows, perhaps Rhea will become the new Nikki ASH in her success with various tag team championships. And even better, there's a slightly more similar set of temperaments here, so no copies of RK Bro to be found. They're a bit closer to kindred spirits than the super brutality element was. So I'm excited to see what comes of Liv and Rhea. Miz offers complexity in his contemplation of Cleveland. He puts it over as home, a place he loves to return to, then turns right around and berates it, but in the most jerky way possible, an honest way. But he also puts over Logan Paul, which is particularly important here since he isn't a wrestler. So he accomplished quite a bit in a meager amount of time. And speaking of time, even that was allocated more responsibly than it was last week. We got a nice balance of wrestler interviews as well as recap. You find out what you need to know, and you get some extra character work and context from the superstars themselves. Nice episode all around. I couldn't pick out a must-watch segment. They were all so good, so it's really up to you as to what you want to see. You can't go wrong with any of them. What do you all think? Now that Steve Austin has accepted KO's challenge, will it be just for a Kevin Owens show segment, or will they eventually push conflict further and go for a full-blown match? Who's going to be the women's tag team champions at the end of WrestleMania? Queen Zelina and Carmella, Liv Morgan and Rhea Ripley, or Sasha Banks and Naomi? Was the Roman Reigns, Brock Lesnar, Madison Square Garden footage the beginning of important happenings being at house shows, or was it just a one-off moment? Let me know in the comments. Be sure to like, share, comment, and subscribe. Tap that bell icon to make sure you get notifications for when new videos come out. Thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you soon.